All right, so here we have the trim removed from the dash. The simple way to go about doing that is you simply just drop the glove box, squeeze it in so that it pops down. You then have to, you can either remove this screw or you will be able to have some leverage just to simply pull it out like that. And then you simply just pull the whole trim. There's no other screws along there. Just pull the whole trim, starting from the passenger side and then just sort of pulling it out as you get towards the steering wheel. So that's simple when swapping this over. Now you'll see that there is a hole there, and normally you would simply just put that over there and then you'd be happy with the garnish. In my situation, I am now changing from the fairly old 2008 version where there is no doors whatsoever, where the finish is actually just this sort of greyish, dark coloured hard plastic, which has, you know, this sort of pattern in it, to a gloss black finish that actually includes a storage door there. So you still have the USB if you're wanting to use it down there. You still have the cigarette lighter, albeit instead of being on the Australian driver's side, it's over on the passenger side. There has been some talk though that the shifter surround for the CVT version won't fit the Evo X SST. What I know from just measurements is that this measures 9 centimeters across and 13 centimeters down, and that's the same on both this and the black edition. But what the question comes down to is whether or not the positioning of the hole in the black edition is the same as for the SST. I assume that it will be, but I've been told that it may not. When you want to swap over, you actually have to swap this section as well as the top section, because there are varying lengths here in terms of where this mates up to this part. Also, there's been some talk that the air conditioning controls or dials from the Evo X you can't use the black edition ones and simply swap everything over. So I'm going to confirm that now in this video, so that so it's for the benefit of the Evo community. Now, when you go to remove any of this stuff here, the first things you have to do is down here there'll be two 10mm bolts. As you can see, I don't have the door on, but I'm going to be putting it on. When you lift up this elbow rest, there'll be two 10mm bolts that you undo, and that is all that holds this in, apart from whatever plugs are underneath here. So when you go about doing this work, you want to put the car in neutral so that when you lift the shifter up, you've got room between the gear knob and the aircon area to lift the shifter out. When it's in park, it's too far forward. So start off by making sure your handbrake's on, turn the car on, put it into neutral, and then start work that way. Okay, so to remove the existing finish that's on the driver's side, simply unscrew the screw down here and then pull down on this part here. Then you will be able to see this finish. You simply just pull up on it and it will come straight out. As you can see, it has one white clip there. It has no screws as a part of it. And then it just has a push down tab here, which sort of locks in place as it goes in. So push it in, done, just like that. You'll need I'll need both my hands to lift these plugs back up and push that into place, but that's very easy on the driver's side. Okay, so I've put the car in accessories, put my foot on the brake pedal, and then I've just simply shifted this down into neutral. This means that when I do go to remove this off the SST, off the gear knob, sorry, it'll be a lot easier because the front part of this plastic is not going to foul anywhere on the air condiles. So off comes the ARC gear knob. Now you can remove these 3 screws and simply pull up on this part and then detach this cable. It's not 100% necessary to do that, but you might like to remove this facer, which means you disconnect the plugs for the radio just so it's all out of the way. You don't have to do that though. The reason why you are lifting this up and out of the way, and yes, you might notice this is an Android head unit, but the fascia surround is the same. You still have to lift up here in order to get to 2 screws, one which is here and one which is there. I've just removed them. They are the 2 top screws that holds this whole aircon dials cubby house mess into the dash. If you've got anything plugged into your cigarette lighter, etc., then you can disconnect that in preparation for undoing everything. The next thing you want to do is undo your gear knob. So if you've just got your handbrake lever, if you've just got a factory lever, you would simply just pull that off the actual handbrake. If you've got something like this, you most likely have an Allen key somewhere that you've got to unscrew before it can come out. In order to take that off, you have to unscrew the handbrake button. But yes, if you've got an OEM type of one, you won't need to do that. Simply just pull the handbrake lever off. Then you want to pull the handbrake up as high as you can so that when you have undone these 2 bolts down here and you go to lift this part up, you'll then be able to lift this whole centerpiece vertically up over this handbrake, and I'll attempt to do that now. Alright guys, so I have managed to pry out with a very thin flathead screwdriver this panel here, and then unplugged the 3 plugs here. That then allows you to have some movement. If you give it a bit of a pull here, you'll be able to undo the 3 plugs that are in here. I just managed to pull it backwards, it was fine. Then you've come across the next battle, which is undoing a tiny little plug, which is just there, which holds the wiring harness which leads to the cigarette lighter. It was a little bit painful to do that. Basically all I did end up doing was just using so much force to push it sideways and push it down, and then pushing the other side of a clip, and it came out. That was slightly annoying. The next thing you want to do is on this lever surround for the SST, there is a little clip here. Never knew that was there, but when you unbolt that, that then allows you to slide this whole lever assembly and this whole thing over the thread. What I was initially doing was I had undone the black plastic that the ARC gear knob then screws onto, and when I got that off, I tried to lift this up, and this won't go up because it's got a tiny little piece of metal here which actually hits the thread, and I was actually about to grind that off when I had a look at my friend Jackson's video, Jackson Strain, and noticed he talked about undoing a clip here. It's actually a pushed button. So that clips in, it's actually a button. So there's no circular clip here, but when you undo that, then yes, that then means that all of this can come up only after you reach your hand, so you lift this up, and you'll see that on the bottom, it's not connected at the moment because I've disconnected it, but if you look location wise for underneath the SST mode adjuster, there is a tiny white plug that plugs up into that. You do it from the left side of a car, so Australian passenger side. You simply just push it in, push the clip in, and it just comes straight down. So now that I have this lever over this part, this whole part should come up. Now I'll do this with two hands because it's almost impossible. I'll be back in a moment. Alright, just notice that when trying to lift up this part here, there is a tiny clip that holds these free plugs, and it's just there. So you need to undo that clip and then everything will be able to be removed. Okay, so some swearing might have been involved there, but it came out. As you can see, the handbrake is fully up. I actually had to put the button back in so that I could get the thing up without the button on. The handbrake just wants to keep falling down all the time. So the clip I was just talking about that I removed was this one. I simply just leveraged it this way, so out from the plastic, and then everything was able to come undone. This is what the plug looks like that, was it this one? Oh, I can't remember. It was one of these two that plugs into the bottom of the sport mode or super sport mode selector. So yeah, there is a number of other wiring harness things which I did not have to touch at all. I'm not sure what that is, but I have not undone it. I had to do anything with it. So great. So now what we're looking at is how to remove this part from the car. So obvious things I can see is that there is a screw on either side, and then down here there's a screw on this side, and the same for the other side. So I'm now going to remove those four and see if I can pull this whole center part back towards me and out of here. Okay, so I've now unbolted the two screws on either side. You may not necessarily need to do the back one, but the reason why you need to do the front one is because, as you can see, there's a stopper here, so that when you go to pull this fascia out, the stopper is going to stop it from moving. So by then undoing that screw, you can pull this out. As you can see, there's a clip there and a clip there. So there is that whole part removed. Now, it looks as though this part detaches from here. Low on battery now, but that I'm going to see if I can separate that, because I can see clearly on this one that it's removed. So I'm just going to try and remove those parts now to get to that.